Well, this was the scene from the Crimean Peninsula over the last couple of days, thanks to a very deep area of low pressure that pushed over the Black Sea, creating hurricane-force winds, heavy rainfall in places, and also very heavy snowfall as well. Thanks for clicking on to the Monday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. Big week coming up here on the channel. Of course, on Thursday we have the official release of the 2023-24 winter, and I'm very excited to be sharing that with you. So stay tuned. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the subscribe button. This also was the scene near Odessa, Ukraine, on the other side of the Black Sea. Blizzard conditions, and it looks rather cold, to say the least. I'm not expecting to see conditions like that here in the UK, but we certainly do have winter coming up. This is the 8:50 temperatures this morning as we started off the work week, and parts of the south of both Ireland and the UK probably saying, where the heck has the cold gone? It was chilly over the weekend, but the cold has retreated. We've got an area of low pressure in the southeast of the British Isles at the moment, and there has been warmer air, as expected, has moved in. But we will end this week with these 8:50 temperatures close to -10, if not at -10, and we are going to see some snow. We're going to have a prevailing wind out of an east to northeasterly direction through the majority of this week. Several areas of low pressure will be close by, and that will be increasing our snow prospects, I think, more towards the end of the week. So let's look at the little details here as we move into the upcoming week here. So let's first of all play through the broader picture. This is off the ECMWF. We'll look at the GFS as well. And you notice here that we've got that area of low pressure. There's that beast that brought severe conditions across coastal areas of the Black Sea over the course of the weekend here. Some very bitterly cold air, in fact, getting wrapped around that circulation here. So we're increasing the snowfall anywhere from parts of Finland all the way down towards Turkey. And we've got this area of low pressure here centered along the Belgian-German coast, really. And now, as that system then moves southeastwards, that's going to allow some of this core of cold air. We've essentially seen a pocket of -20 at 8:50 over northwestern Russia into Finland. That is now sliding westwards over Scandinavia. And then what we're going to see is a little piece of this cold air dropping into the British Isles here as we skip into the day on Tuesday, so tomorrow. But you notice here, area of low pressure out over the North Sea. We're going to see 50, possibly even 60 mile per hour winds associated with this. But look at this here, as we see that circulation, it actually fills, if you notice here, over the North Sea according to the ECMWF. Then we've got another feature here in Biscay. We need to pay attention to this region here, Southern Ireland, Southern UK, Northern France, as we move towards the weekend here, because that may provide a fairly significant snow event. We'll look at that in just a second. But you can see here the 8:50 temperatures now starting to fill the UK with -5 or colder. And you notice the direction of the wind coming in off the North Sea. Relatively warm waters here, and if we got a cold enough air mass, and I still think it's a bit early yet, but if you got a cold enough air mass, you would start to see snow showers piling in as those winds, those cold winds blow off Scandinavia across the relatively warm waters of the North Sea and into the UK here from an easterly direction. So if only, and it's the same cliche, if only it was about a month later down the road, this would have been a far bigger deal, of course. And like I said in the global weather report yesterday, be sure to check that out. There's talk about the stratosphere and other aspects, not just for the UK and Ireland, but of course globally, hence why the name Global Weather Report. But I do speak a bit about the stratosphere and other things on that video from yesterday, so check that out and even let me know in the comment section below what you think of yesterday's Global Weather Report. But you can see here that we have got that easterly component. Now notice here we're always flirting with milder air in off the Atlantic, and you've got this big clash zone. Notice here by the time we reach the end of the upcoming weekend here, again, models are all over the place, struggle to differentiate between sometimes between the warm and the cold. These areas of low pressure act like little wheels, little cogs, and it kind of essentially dictates the movement of the warm versus the cold air mass. But you notice here that areas of low pressure continue to get suppressed to the south with this reservoir of cold air across the board. But notice here as we move towards the middle portion of the next week, and you take this with a pinch of salt, of course, but notice here that we start to see the mild coming back into play once again. And I've said that really since before this cold spell even arrived, that we would need to watch towards the end of week 1 of December into the second week for a potential shift to milder conditions. And I've explained why with the Manjulan oscillation, etc., etc. Also, the Indian Ocean dipole, I think, will have an impact in the early portion of this winter season, but it is now starting to gradually fade away here. We're also paying attention to what's going on within the stratosphere, some big developments there. But it's a complex but very fascinating situation overall. And let's have a look at the UKV model here and look at the finer details with regards to the upcoming week here. So let's have a look and see what the precipitation situation is here as we go through the course of this week. So at the moment here, we've got relatively mild conditions. I say relatively mild. We had a cold weekend, by the way. Temperatures didn't really get much of a freezing, I think, in the central belt. I think the temperatures dropped to -7.7 at Shap Summit in Cumbria. So reasonably cold weekend, as expected. Then we've had the pullback. And now, as we push into the early portion of this week, we are going to see the return of that cold off the continent. So you can see here, as we play through this sequence, a band of rainfall through the Midlands, East Anglia, and that will eventually start to clear away. And you notice here we've got these showers coming in off the North Sea, but not cold enough air to support snowfall. So you can see here, let me see if I can try and get rid of that advert at the very bottom. It's rather annoying. So you can see here as we continue to play through into the early hours of tomorrow morning, notice here that we've got a little bit of clearer sky here. So this is precipitation, but also cloud cover. Don't often show you this actually, and I probably should show you this a little bit more. I do know that Gavin on GAVSWEATHERVIDS shows this chart quite frequently. Be sure to check him out. Check out the 13th winter update that was released yesterday on his channel. So I greatly encourage you to check that out. Some great contributions also by Richard Trott and Shryan Bruin. A terrific channel, and I certainly would encourage you to check that out if you can and if you haven't already done so. But you notice here we continue to play through this, and we've got this component. Notice the direction of the airflow here is coming in from a northeasterly direction. And then as we continue to play through this, it's really just a kind of snow showers rattling in on that northeasterly wind here. And then as we move right towards the very end of the period, we're keeping a close eye on the situation. Heavy showers blowing in over eastern and central England, the fade as they cross over the Pennines. And then it's an area of low pressure to the south that we need to watch here. At the moment, it looks as if the majority of the models keep that to the south, affecting more the near continent, and France in particular. But it will be interesting to see as this week progresses, as the models become a little bit more fine-tuned, to see whether we're going to see any significant snow across the southern half of the British Isles here. So let's have a look at wind gusts here, because that's quite interesting. Some pretty strong winds out over the open sea. You notice here as we start the week here, we've got wind gusts in excess of 45 to close to 50 mile per hour just off the Caithness and Orkney coast here. Strongest winds will always be along the eastern coasts here. But you notice we've got 50, even 60 mile per hour winds coming in across the North Sea, thanks to the orientation of the pressure pattern here. And then winds drop off during the overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning here. So we will start to see, as that cold air comes in, clear skies, light winds translate to some pretty cold temperatures. And we're going to see some quite cold nights. Wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if we're knocking the door -10 at some point this week. Then as we continue to play through, you can see here that we've got winds in excess of 60 miles per hour rattling in off the North Sea. So we are going to see some waves battering the east coast of Scotland and England, even potentially across the Irish coast, but you notice here we've got a lot lighter winds over the Irish Sea as opposed to the North Sea. The UK landmass is essentially protecting Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland from particularly strong winds, even across southern and western parts of the UK. Winds are relatively light, so to speak, here with the topography largely protecting it. But you see here the transfer of strongest winds as we push into the middle portion of the week here, move south. Then as we continue to play through, we need to keep our eyes on anywhere from South Yorkshire all the way down to Kent. We could see some very strong winds blowing, possibly 60 mile an hour winds along the East Anglian coast, Kent coast, as we move towards the upcoming weekend. How cold are we going to see? Well, in fact, we're going to actually look at snow depth before we get to that and see. This, by the way, is snow depth as of Saturday, the 2nd of December. You can see here, one standout is the fact that the majority of the snow cover is along the eastern side of the British Isles here. No surprise given the wind direction out of the east-northeast. And as we play through the course of this week, you notice here that it's largely high ground of Scotland through the next several days, but we do start to see that snow becoming a little bit more widespread, but again, over high ground. Now we're starting to see it as we move towards the early hours of Wednesday morning over parts of the borders into the northeast of England here, and then it's as we move into the second half of this work week, we start to see snow becoming a little bit more further, like descending further south over the British Isles here, even parts of the Mourne Mountains and areas to the west of Dublin here, picking up on some snow cover down the spine of the Pennines, and then into parts of southern Norfolk, Suffolk, we could see some interesting snow accumulations here. Nothing major, and as I took away the advert there, you can see 15 centimeters, 15 centimeters of snow seen over the higher ground of parts of Kent, possibly Essex as well. So we'll watch this space. Like I've said all along, I'm not massively over enthusiastic with regards to snow in this particular event. I think the problem is that the cold is marginal, and when you've got a marginal, you sometimes find that the mile just slightly outdoes it. But we'll wait and see what happens. Maybe there's always surprises when it comes to the weather. This is, of course, the temperatures as we progress through the overnight tonight here, and the coldest conditions. No surprise across northern England and Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, parts of the Republic of Ireland, where winds are lightest and skies are clearest. We're going to see the temperatures dropping off, possible local -4 or 5 during the overnight tonight. Then, as we move into the early portions of Wednesday morning, you can see here that the cold starts to gather pace. You can see here -5s, -6s. There's even a -8 close and just to the east of Carlisle, as you can see here. Probably not overly clear in this chart, unfortunately, to see. And then as we progress towards the second half of the week, parts of Moray and Aberdeenshire may see temperatures as low as -7, -8 Celsius here. So we are getting colder and colder as we move towards the end of the week here. 21Z on Thursday, the 30th of November, the final day of autumn. Looks as if there's a -10 there over the glens of eastern Highland Scotland. So quite interesting to see that. And daytime temperatures are going to really struggle as well. There's a -14, probably overdone, I would say. But Friday night into Saturday morning, in particular, the UKV model is indicating -14 over the higher ground here in shelter. So we'll watch this space. A very interesting upcoming week to come. Keep it right here in the channel. Lots of content available for you both here on YouTube, but also on the website as well. So the December forecast, the winter forecast, will be released by the time we reach the end of Thursday. So have that in your diaries, and you can look forward to that, hopefully. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I'll see you again tomorrow with more details on this interesting winter week ahead.